and yet retains his separate, which is being shown. So as long as we give through identification continuity, there can be no renewal. It is only with the cessation of identification there is a possibility of renewal. And most of us are frightened of coming to an end. Most of us are frightened of death. Innumerable books have been written about what is after death. We are more interested in death than in living. Because with death there seems to be an end. An end to identification. And the thing that continues constantly surely has no rebirth, no renewal. It's only in dying there is renewal. And therefore it's important to die every minute. Not till your old age and disease. That means dying to all the accumulations and identifications, to the gathered experiences. And that is real simplicity. Not the accumulated continuance of identification. So when this process of identification, which gives continuance to memory, which is revived in the present and giving life to memory, then there is a possibility of rebirth, renewal, recreativeness. And in that renewal there is no continuous. That which renews cannot continue. It must be from moment to moment. And the questioner wants to know also, do you perhaps mean that by knowing what part of you is eternal? Is there a part of you eternal? That which you can think about is still the product of thought. And therefore not the eternal. Because thought is the result of the past, of time. And if you posit as something eternal in you, you have already thought about it. I am not cleverly arguing about this matter. Because you can see very well that the eternal is not when you can think about it. You cannot progress to the eternal. You cannot evolve to it. If you do, then it's merely a projection of thought. Therefore within the net of time. Therefore that way leads the illusion, misery, to all the ugliness of deception. which we all like. Because the mind only can function within the known, from safety to safety, from security to security. And the eternal is not if it is within the time, within the bondage of time. And the moment the mind thinks about it, it is in the bondage of time. Therefore it's not real. So when you can perceive this whole process of identification, of how thought gives continuity to things in order to be secure, how the thinker separates himself from the thought and thereby makes himself secure. When you see of all this process of time and live and understand it, not merely verbally but deeply feel it, inwardly experience it, then you will see that you no longer think of the timeless. Then the mind not only superficially but profoundly becomes quiet, becomes tranquil, is tranquil. Then there is a direct experiencing of that which is measureless. But merely to speculate upon what is the timeless is a waste of time. You might just play poker. And all this is brushed aside the moment you have a direct experience. And that is what we are discussing. To have this direct experience without the intervention of the mind. And when once there is an experiencing of it, the mind then begins to have the sensations of it. And then wants the repetition of that experience. Which means merely the mind is interested in sensation, not in experience. Therefore mind can never experience. It can only know its sensation. The experiencing comes only when the mind is not the experiencer. So the timeless cannot be imagined or known or experienced through the mind. And as that is the only instrument which we have cultivated at the expense of everything else, we are lost when we look at the process of the mind. We must be lost. We must come to an end. Not despair, not fear. Know the process of the mind and see what it is. Therefore, when you see that which it is, it comes to an end without any enforcement. Only then is there possibility of that renewal which is eternal. Is there a gulf, an interval of any duration, between my perceiving something and being or realizing it? Does not this interval imply an ideal at one end and its realization at the other end through practice and technique? It is this how or the method that we want from you. Is there a gulf, an interval of any duration between my perceiving something and being or realizing it. Does not this interval imply an ideal at one end and its realization at the other end through practice or technique? It is this how or the method that we want from you. Is there an interval between perception and action? With most of us, we say so. We say there is an interval. I see, and later on I will act. I understand intellectually, but how am I to put it into practice? I see what you mean, but I don't know how to carry it out. This gap, this gulf, this interval, is it necessary? Or we are only deceiving ourselves? When I say I see, I really don't see. If I see, then there is no problem. Then action follows if I see something. If I see a poisonous snake, I don't say I see and how am I to act? I act. But we don't see. And we don't see because we don't want to see. Because it's too imminent, too dangerous, too vital. It'll upset our whole process of thinking, living. Therefore we say, I see, and please tell me how to act. Therefore you are interested in the method, the how, to get to do it, to practice. So we say, I see the idea, I comprehend, and how am I to act? Then we try to bridge the action, connect the action with the idea.